On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we give you what we're watching for in OU South Carolina, and Hale McGranahan joins us to tell us more about the Gamecocks. We preview the best games of Week 8 in college football, and of course, we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, October 16th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted the OKC Metro's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of October, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards. Ted, it's white out on Saturday. That's fun.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be cool.
That'll be good. Wear your white, ladies and gentlemen. There's also this. The best three-loss team in the country is coming to Norman.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
As I watch them on tape, they're way better than I wanted them to be.
Yeah,
This is a talented football team, man. Talented football team.
yeah. You look at had LSU beat. I mean, had Alabama on the ropes in Tuscaloosa. I mean, that's not very many people have pulled that one off. And I mean, yeah, they're going to be good. They're going to be coming into here. They're not going to be intimidated at all coming in here playing Oklahoma.
Well, they're going to be intimidated when I give Shane Beamer a noogie on the field before the game. I'm coming for you, Beamer. No,
That's all.
it's gonna be great to see Shane, but let's get into it, man. There is a lot to discuss with this football team. Ted, what are you watching from OU's defense against South Carolina's offense?
Talented, athletic. Um, I mean, they are a heavy run football team. Sellers, redshirt freshman quarterback. I think he's coming off of his best game against Alabama. He was 23 of 31, 74%, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw an interception, but I thought it was his best performance. Um, Really starting to come together for him. He has missed a little time with the injury, but I mean, it didn't look like there was a whole lot of lingering effects the way he was running around in that game against Bama. He's got some good skill guys, but their passing, uh, it's a pretty, I don't know, primitive passing game. I guess I would say it's really basic. You're not going to get a whole lot of, he's reading stuff out and trying to pick people apart. It's a lot of I'm going right here with the football, one read, that's where it's going. If it's not there, I'm going to pull it down and run with it. Which I do think, and I don't know what you think, but I really like the 3 down stuff with the mix of pressure and dropping 8. I think when you drop 8 against him, I've seen some teams do it. He is uncomfortable. He just doesn't like it. The vision downfield isn't great. It looks like he's, it's like the default hits, and it's like, I don't know. I'm just going to take off with it. And then you've got the net spread across the field, and guys can rally up and tackle against him because he is athletic. But, I'm sure we'll do multiple things against him. Wide receivers, I think, are okay. I mean, there's some good talent there. you have a physical outlier in Nick Harbor, who's gigantic athlete, can absolutely fly, but um, they haven't gotten. I think he's got 9 catches on the year, so not a whole lot of production from him. Out of the backfield, Rocket Sanders, really good back. Was a 1,400-yard rusher at Arkansas a couple of years ago. He's really good between the tackles, physical. He's a big guy, about 230 pounds, tough to bring down. They got a switch up back, number 27. Um, they run screens to him. He's their screen guy, running back screens, and they set those up pretty good and do a good job with it. Couple of big tight ends. Tight ends are big. 20 is usually kind of the down guy, and then 6, Josh Simon. You'll see out on some routes a little bit more, but two good looking tight ends.
20, Michael Smith, 6'6", 255. Number 6, Joshua Simon, 6'4", 260.
And they run well and they're pretty physical. Now, offensive line, I wanted to get your opinion on it because I don't think they're great pass pro, but I think they're physical in the run game and they block hard. They're on the right guys, I feel like. And I'll just tell you right now, when you watch the Alabama film, they took it to their ass. I mean, you could like they were the more physical team from the way I viewed it, and I mean, you could say that. I mean, maybe both ways. They're more physical. I mean, I know we're talking about South Carolina, but Alabama has lost that edge of being the physical, dominant, brutal football team. They weren't in that game. South Carolina was taking it to them. They were punching them right in the mouth. Liked what I saw from their offensive line, the way that they really fired off into them. And you get a lot of stuff out of the run game. You'll get you'll get all kinds of option stuff that's interesting, like almost even though it's out of shotgun or pistol, like triple option stuff. You'll have a dive. They'll bring a motion guy around as a pitch player, and like a tight end will come from the backside, like a load option. I mean, some really interesting stuff. Quarterback draw, lead draw out of some pass formations. They'll run counter with the back. They'll run power, split zone stuff. A lot of gap scheme, a lot of counter and quarterback counter off of like the wide zone stuff. And they're pretty effective at it. Um, I thought there was a really interesting play where it looks like split zone, but you're handing the action this way, and the H back or tight end's coming back across the formation like in split zone. Except he's influencing, he's not blocking the end. He's going to release out, and it's like a quarterback sweep, and it's almost like a boot, but it's a designed run where everyone's blocking on the perimeter. It's a pretty cool play. Um, they ran split zone with the action to the tight end, but the tight end just releases down the field, right? So when he's releasing, everyone's getting pass release. So your support players are on their heels. The edge defender, now the defensive end, doesn't think that he's the contained guy. Well, all of a sudden he is now, and you got some action coming across. I thought that was pretty cool. So they do some unique things in the running game. So I would imagine for Oklahoma, you're going to have quite a few little one-off intricacies that they're going to add in on some of these things. But all in all, I think the run game's pretty effective.
I completely agree on your assessment of the O line. It looks like a group that is a lot more comfortable blocking the run.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a lot more comfortable. I think it's what they are best at. And that is why the goal, just like it is every week for Oklahoma's defense. But if you get this team in second and long and third and long, you're going to be in good shape
Mhm.
because they struggle to pass protect, especially at the tackle position. And I think the left tackle is going to be a good player. But he's a true freshman and he's playing at 300 pounds. Josiah Thompson, 6'7, 300, clearly has a lot of talent, but he's light and he's young and he's inexperienced. And they're kind of just baptizing him by fire this season, which I respect. But that is a guy, I mean, you got to get after him.
Mhm.
You got to get after him. 75, the right tackle as well. I mean, I've seen him beat a dozen times in pass protection.
He reminds me of um, what was the sumo wrestler's name on Street Fighter that had the hands that were all over the place? Because he's got the busiest hands I think I've ever seen for an offensive tackle in my life.
The sumo wrestler on Street Fighter. I'm getting E Honda
E
from
Honda.
Google.
Yep.
Does that
That's who he
sound right?
reminds me of. Yep. Really busy hands.
I'm told E is for Edmund Honda.
Edmund Honda.
How about that?
Interesting.
Learn something new every day. I
There you
hadn't
go.
thought about Street Fighter in a long time. Look at us. But you're right.
Yeah.
There's a
He's
lot going on with 75, right tackle.
but I like the run game and they're effective. And if I'm Shane Beamer, I got a redshirt freshman quarterback that's got turnover problems. I'm going on the road. My defense is playing really good. The opposing offense is not. I'm going to be super heavy in the run game, try and shorten it, and take some chances here and there on some deep plays. It's I think that's what they're going to do. Passing game, like I said, it's kind of primitive. You're not going to get a whole lot of stuff. They do like to chip with the running backs on the defensive ends, chip and then swing release. You'll get some of your typical over and under routes. You'll have a guy coming across on the shallow side and then deep on the back end. They'll do the all curls at about 7 or 8 yards. Like I mentioned, they do. You said not great at pass pro, so you'll get like your traditional screen downs, second and extra long, third and really long backed up. You'll get running back screen, and they like it to 27. And I think they do a good job setting it up. Um, you'll get your mesh, the two unders and the dig in behind, and they like to hit the running back rail down the sideline on it too to try and catch you sleeping a little bit. But for the most part, it there's not a whole lot there in the passing game. Um, here's what I will say, more generally speaking. If you've watched South Carolina football games, and I don't necessarily think that this is a a good quality, but it's happened so much they're probably comfortable in it. Their games are drunk as hell. Like some of the things that happen in these football games. So like I jotted this down because I was watching, the Alabama film, and it's like when you watch film, like I don't get too caught up in the down and distances and the score or anything. But I looked up and I was like, wait, what happened? The way that happened, it was 14-0 Alabama. There's a minute and 43 left to go. Um, South Carolina's got it 4th and 9 at the Alabama 36. Take the long field goal, minute 43 left. No, that's not what they do. It's 4th and 9. They throw a bomb. Alabama's sleeping on defense. Touchdown. 14-7 with a minute 37 to go. Kickoff. Personal foul on the kickoff. Yes.
I know what happens next.
Okay. Tell them.
Personal foul on the kickoff. Bama ends up backed up. Jalen Milrow then throws a pass to no one in the end zone and is called for intentional grounding, and Alabama gets a safety.
Alabama gets a safety. It's now 14-9 with a minute 28 to go. All right. So South Carolina's got the ball 1st and 10 on their own 43 with a minute 28. Um, if I'm doing math, 15 seconds ago, it was 14-0. Now it's 14-9. They go 3 plays and they fumble at the Alabama 44. Alabama now has the ball with 48 seconds to go.
And then what
First and,
happens, Ted?
first and 10 at their 47. They go 3 plays, throw an interception. It's returned back to the Alabama 19, I believe, and South Carolina kicks a field goal. And you go into halftime, it's 14-12. And all of that happens in a minute and 43 seconds. But like that's not even the craziest really exchange in this game. It happens in all of their games. LSU, like some of the stuff that happened in the LSU game is like, what are we witnessing? So what I'm saying is like they live in chaos and you get comfortable to those games once you play them quite a bit. And the back and forth, the sudden change, like that's something that we like. Look at the sudden change against Texas, right? We're over on the sideline talking to a coach, and oh my God, we're on defense. Our guys late getting out there, and then it's a touchdown. So it's just like always stay tuned to what may happen next against South Carolina. You got to keep your antennas up for anything.
You're saying something weird is happening. There is going to be a very strange sequence of this football game because that's what they do.
I'd be shocked if there wasn't in the first like handful of plays. They went for it on. They tried a fake punt against Ole Miss on the first series of the game. So you never know what you're going to get, man.
Anything else? South Carolina's offense against OU's defense.
I think like I said, I think it's going to be a very run heavy football game. They're going to play to their strengths and see what happens.
Completely agree. All right, let's talk about OU's offense against South Carolina's defense. But first, hitting the highway, remember to stop at Love's Travel Stops. You can't miss the heart of the highway. And with the Love's app, you can also save big. How big? 10 or 15 cents big. Save 10 cents per gallon on gas and 15 cents per gallon on auto diesel. Save with the Love's app today and be welcomed by clean places and friendly faces. Certain conditions may apply. See loves.com for details.
All you tailgaters, listen up. We're now officially in the premium conference of college football, and you expect a premium product on the field and on the grill. That's why you need Didier Ranch's steak burgers to take your tailgate to the next level. Proudly raised in Oklahoma for over 120 years, premium beef this good is hard to come by. Go to DidierRanch.com. That's DIDIER ranch.com. Use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Didier Ranch, tradition plays better and tastes better.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the official drinkware partner of the Oklahoma Sooners. This season, Simple Modern is creating unique drinkware for each home game. So get your exclusive refillable Sooner cups at any of the remaining home games. And when away games have you cheering at home, get your OU gear at simplemodern.com or Amazon's Simple Modern shop, along with more than 100 partnerships with colleges and professional sports teams. With 10% of all Simple Modern profits going to charity, many in Oklahoma, you're also helping Oklahomans off the field. Simple Modern, it's good everywhere. Okay, things to watch for OU's offense versus South Carolina's defense. First of all, South Carolina is very talented on defense. When you look at what they do from a structural standpoint, 4-2-5 defense, the vast majority of time they are in a four-man even front. Now they will jump into bear with the mic on the ball. We've seen that from a lot of different teams this year, so should be used to it by now. Now, against LSU, they did show some 3 down, 3 safety looks, but I think that had a lot to do with the explosive playmakers that LSU has a wide receiver with Lacey and Anderson. I I'd be a little surprised. I wouldn't expect them to play that with what OU has shown or the lack of explosiveness
Yeah.
that OU has shown recently. So we'll see. Maybe they do. They do an interesting structure where they have four down, Ted, but they're playing three safety defense. It's
Hmm.
pretty interesting. You typically don't see it that way, but it kind of stood out when I saw it. I once again, I don't think you're going to get much of the three safety stuff. I think they're going to feel pretty confident that they can play a lot of man coverage, sprinkle in some deep zone, and be just fine. But we'll see. From a personnel standpoint, their edge guys are the best duo at edge we've seen by a mile. And that is and James Pierce is an excellent player for Tennessee. And Texas has really good players on the edge. But Kyle Kennard, number 5, is probably going to be a first rounder. And number 6, Dylan Stewart, he's a true freshman. And his ceiling is the first pick of the NFL draft in 2027.
Yep.
That's that's his ceiling. First pick of the draft. He is the most dynamic rusher I've seen on tape all season long. Doesn't have the best awareness at times, but when you just talk about pure pass rushing talent, he is as good as I've seen.
Hmm.
Those two guys are absolute dudes. Their D tackles are solid as well. 91 Tonka Hemingway, just what an incredible name. But
They've got a lot of good names on defense.
there's got to be a correlation there. Awesome names to being a
Right.
good football player. There's got to be a correlation, but I think they're solid at defensive tackle. The D line overall, except for Stewart, is old, but it is a physical group. They can really run at inside linebacker. Their DBs are long and athletic. Ted, physically, they are a very good looking defense.
Yes,
Maybe a
I totally.
little smaller than you want to be at defensive tackle, but other than that, this group looks the damn part.
Yeah. Yeah, like the freshman Stewart. I remember when I first saw him in their game against Old Dominion, I was like, ah, he's really good, but it'll take a little while for him to fill out. I didn't real I He's 6'6", 250 as a freshman. It's crazy. They are a good looking group.
So my number one hope for this game for OU on offense is that they do something where when I watch the film on Sunday, I go, that looks good. They got better at that this week. And then they went out and executed it at a high level. That's my hope. Whether it's run game, pass game, screen game, I don't care. I just want to see improvement somewhere. And I'm hoping it's in the running game. But that is my hope. That's my number one goal for this football game for OU's offense to go, hey, that looks good. That looks better. Let's build on that.
Yeah.
Some run game thoughts. I'm hoping we see some simpler stuff in the running game. Or I'm hoping that Michael Hawkins is put in some situations where he can just hand it off and doesn't have to read something.
Well, yeah, be careful because those defensive ends sometimes they don't mess around with worrying about the gap or anything. They're just going to come head hunt.
If if you are going to utilize the read run game, and OU has done it a lot, they did it a lot against Texas. Counter read, a lot of different variations of counter read, right? The one back quarterback power where the sweep's coming across. If the guy doesn't close, or if he closes, then he hands the sweep. If he doesn't, he runs one back quarterback power. Don't read 6. Read Kennard. Do not read Stewart. because Stewart does not care. He does not follow the rules.
Something
He's
different
not,
every time.
Ted, he's not going to feather and try to play in between. He is going to attack the mesh point and try to knock the living hell out of you. It is on tape. It is proven. So if you're going to go with the read run game, maybe don't have six as the backside defender being red. That's my advice
Yeah.
because nothing good will come of it. They're, it's interesting. Their defensive line, they're a good group, but they're also a frustrating group from this standpoint. These guys, I think they're more concerned with making plays than playing really good defense. They will jump out of their gaps. They will try to backdoor things to go and try to make a tackle for loss and make a play. And to their credit, especially Stewart and Kennard, like they do it at a high level, but it also gets them in a little trouble. So when they do that stuff, you have to make them pay for not being gap sound. Now they're going to do it a little bit and they're going to make plays. They're just they got a couple guys that are very gifted, but you just have to trust that if you do the right things and they're jumping out of gaps and they're jumping around blocks, that your running backs will make you right and that they'll end up paying for doing it that way. But I think when you look at Dylan Stewart, you got to make him take on double teams. You're going to struggle to block him one on one. So double team him on the counter concepts, double team him on zone concepts, make him do the worst parts of playing defensive end.
Yeah.
Like make him suffer through that because if you try to block him one on one consistently, it is not going to go well. Looking at some runs, I think can be really effective. Split zone and counter are good plays against this team. And it has everything to do with what I said about the DNs not following the rules all the time. You run counter at him, that first puller's coming to kick him out. Dylan Stewart is up the field every time. He's not closing and trying to spill counter, Ted. He's going up the field and trying to make a play right now. So, and by the way, I think regular counter is a good play, not super sprint draw counter. Give me just regular GY, GH counter. Two pullers, guard, tight end. That's all you need. Bama ran it a bunch. Look good. But if you're Fabechi Wee or whether it's well, we'll see if it's Jacob Sexton or Heath Ozida at left guard to start this game. You have to completely ignore your training on counter. Completely ignore it. Because if you pull flat and like get into the line like you are taught, you are not going to touch Dylan Stewart and you are not going to touch Kyle Kennard because those guys are going to be up the field. So
They're
you
not going to shut it down and squeeze and contain.
know they're going to make plays. So you have to ignore how you've been trained on that play for this game. You need to know who you're pulling for. 5 and 6 are going to fly up the field. The other guys are somewhere in between playing it the way that people normally play it and up the field. But if it's 5 and 6, if you pull and you get up into the line, you're flat, you're like, oh, I got to go kick this guy out. You're going to look down the line and you're not going to see anyone. They're going to be in the backfield. So you have to know that. If you don't know that, the play is getting blown up in the backfield for a loss of 4. And it's the same thing on split zone. And that's why I think split zone's a good play on against them, because if 6 or 5 is the guide where the tight end is coming across the formation and blocking in man on the line of scrimmage, it creates this natural cutback lane for that play because Kennard and Stewart are up the field. It creates this gap
I don't, I mean, you know how we showed that diamond formation against Texas? Like,
and never ran a play out of it.
well, I guess what I'm saying is we typically run and most people run split zone from the tight end off the ball that is a long way to go for those guys. I'd almost like them in a like what you would consider an offset eye position. Help that angle out a little bit.
Bauer Sharp and Jake Roberts, whoever's going back on split zone, buckle up. But hey, you've got to get a piece because if you don't get a piece, it's going to be tackle for loss, loss of four. But I do think with the way that those guys play it out on the edge, it creates some natural space. You just have to know where they're going to be, and they are going to be up the field, not at the line of scrimmage. If you are looking at the line of scrimmage for those guys, you're not going to see them. They're not going to be there. I do think some simple QB run game can work in this game. Ole Miss gotten empty as they were kind of just bleeding the clock in the second half. They got an empty, or the back was in the backfield and they free released him on the snap. They just ran some QB run game stuff, like 5-man box stuff, just counter. They ran just like an empty QB zone for Jackson Dart, and that stuff looked good. Bama had success with Jalen Milrow with the QB pin pull play, scored a touchdown on it. And we saw OU run that play against Texas. I think they should try it again against South Carolina. Now, I would run QB pin pull to Kennard's side and not Dylan Stewart's side because Kennard is actually going to play into the pin down block. Dylan Stewart is not. He's going to run up the field and just run around and kind of
Knock people off
and just bend his body like Gumby and try to chase the quarterback down. I mean, some of the things he does, the way he bids, it's phenomenal to watch on tape. But he will freelance, so it's strange. Sometimes you want to run stuff at Kennard, even though it seems like he's going to be a first round draft pick, just because he's a little more predictable than Stewart is. Let's get to the pass game stuff. Brent Venables said that Deion Burks is 80%. That's encouraging. I I'm not going to believe he's playing until I see him out there on the field, but my goodness, it would be awfully helpful if he could because an 80% Deion Burks is one of this team's best options. Excuse me. An 80% Deion Burks is this team's best option. And OU needs to win this game desperately. So if Burks can go, let's go, man. Need you. Got to have you. But looking at South Carolina's defense, OU has to push the ball down the field, and they have to show the willingness to do it early. And that may sound strange because I've just been raving about these two edge guys for South Carolina. But one of the best way to nullify Kennard and Stewart as pass rushers is just take a couple 3-step drops and let it fly down the football field. They're not going to be able to sack Michael Hawkins Jr. that quickly, even if they are as good as they are. The the offensive line doesn't have to hold on very long to throw some go balls. And they have had corners get run by. Now they're long and athletic, but it is on tape. Guys from Ole Miss, guys from LSU, guys from Bama, just running by guys. So you have to take those chances. And we saw the Sooners do it on the first drive of the game against Texas and never really got back to it. You have to throw those early and often. And it would be awfully nice to connect on some of them, but you just have to make them respect that you're going to take those chances. I think you can max protect and team them, double move them. Their corners, they these guys have struggled with double moves, and I think it goes back to the overall attitude of the defense. Everyone out there wants to make a play, like wants to make a big play. That's how it feels to me. Like these guys want to make big plays and stutter and go, slant and go. These corners for South Carolina, they want to make a play on the football. And you have to use that aggressiveness against them, but you have to have time to let those routes develop. Do not block Kennard or Stewart with a tight end. Don't even think about it. It will not go well. Do not max protect and try to block them with a tight end and a running back. Bama tried to do that. Did not go well. Dylan Stewart swims the tight end, runs through the running back, and goes and almost sacks Jalen Milrow. Don't do it. It won't work. I will say when they play zone, they play some deep zone coverage, there is a large, large void in the middle of the field. That has to be an area that Michael Hawkins Jr. and this passing attack exploits when they're playing zone. And Ted, he's got to let it rip. Can't hesitate, man. If you hesitate, you're going to get sacked. 5 and 6 are coming. When it's there, let it rip. Let it rip. Last thing I got is pass pro thoughts. You are at home. Use the snap count as a weapon. You cannot let these edge guys get a feel for the snap count. If you do, your tackles will have no chance. You have to alter the snap count throughout the football game. And if you do, it is proven, it is on the tape. South Carolina's defensive line will jump off sides. I think Ole Miss got them 5 or 6 times. They will jump off sides.
Try and get the free plays.
But you have to do it. It is necessary. Help your tackles out. Help your offensive line out. Change the snap count throughout the football game. You got to chip Kennard and Stewart. You got to work some of that stuff in there. Tight ends, running backs. You're not going to block these guys consistently one-on-one. So, and with the way that OU does pass protection, right? The guys that are in the 3-man slide, when you're that way, when you're in the slide, right? When you have 3 offensive linemen for 2 defensive linemen, whoever's playing center, buddy, you're on an island. If I'm that guard, my eyes and my body, I am thinking, help the tackle, help the tackle. And so whether it's Troy Everett or it's Branson Hickman, those guys have to have a hell of a game because it may be the most one-on-one pass blocking that they do. Or at least that's how I would do it. I would tell both of those guys, hey, get it done because these guards are going to help those tackles. We'll see what it looks like. I do think that they're very physical at inside linebacker. Another great name, number 0, Debo Williams. Just great names all over this defense.
Debo's and Tonkas and Rockets and all kinds of stuff.
Just a great, great named team. I mean, they're the Gamecocks. Of course, they have great names on their team. It just comes naturally. But after some of the issues OU had with pressure against Texas, would not be surprised at all if South Carolina dials it up a little bit with their inside backers. And 0, Debo Williams is the guy that they bring, and he comes with velocity and physicality. He's a fan of contact. I know I just threw a lot at you, Ted, but I've been watching a lot of South Carolina's defense.
Yeah. No, they're a good group. Let me ask you, um, I know it's not our thing offensively, but often when you got defensive ends that love to fly up the field and are wanting to rush the passer a little bit. The guy I think of is Simeon Rice. Remember whenever he was at Tampa Bay way back in the day, draw, screen, like even just like a traditional shovel pass stuff like that. I know that's not our thing, but
Oh, we've got shovel.
well, yeah, that was like a dramatic shovel. I'm
We've
talking
got
like an
shovel.
old
It's it
school
was
Quentin
it was
Griffin
to a
shovel.
tight end. It was to a
Yeah.
tight end, not a running back, but we got shovel.
I'm just thinking like stuff where you can invite them up the field,
Yeah.
kind of eliminate them, and go attack the rest of the defense.
Yeah. Draw.
Draw.
I'm with you. And we saw him run it against Texas. We saw him run it well a couple times against Texas. Even just a regular, like delayed running back draw
Old school. Yeah.
would be a great play. And it's because when they're flying up the field on the edges, it creates this natural space. And you have to use that against them. That's why I like counter and split zone and these things because you know they're going to be up the field, so might as well use it against them.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, man. I think that's a great point. Draw, running back draw, they both should be effective. Now, if you're that tackle, if you're those tackles,
Gotta sell it.
you got to invite them up the field. But these guys are good enough to where they can stop and then
It
try to
ain't over.
retrace,
Yeah.
and you cannot let them cross your face and get back inside.
Yeah.
And you also can't get beat so quick that they could just run around and bend and make the play.
So I guess don't invite them up, Phil. Just block it like normal.
Just do it right. Just block draw properly. Yeah, but it's a talented group. It's a really, really talented group. Let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the number one thing that you will be watching for in OU South Carolina. And this was my favorite one. It came from at S Steel 06. I will be watching the levels on my drink to make sure it doesn't get too empty while enjoying the stylings of Luke L. Zinga.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, he's become one of the most popular players on the team, right? He's he's been a weapon.
I Are we giving that kid enough credit? He's been incredible. We don't talk a lot of special teams on here.
Well,
We
we
don't talk
talk
a lot of
about him more than I mean any other punter I can ever remember, but it still may not be enough.
He's been very, very good.
Very good.
I
Yep.
mean, I think he should be, I mean, he should absolutely be in the conversation. Do people have conversations about who the best punter in the country is? Is that a thing that people do?
There's a very small group of people for the Ray Guy Award. Other than that, nobody does, I don't think.
Well, that group should be talking about Luke Elzinga.
I agree. And, you know, he's going to have a chance for, um, he's going to have a chance for something like that just because of the sheer volume of like punts that he's landed inside the 20 and punts of like 50 plus. It ain't even close to where in the SEC, like he leads the SEC by a very wide span.
This may sound crazy, but you know how with the Heisman, people always talking about like the Heisman moment or playing well when you're on the big stage and the whole country is watching.
Yeah,
Elzinga has been fantastic against Tennessee and Texas.
yeah, he
I mean,
has
just an absolute
pinning
weapon
them
in both
deep.
of those football games.
Yeah, I and like that. That's the like I can't imagine where we'd be right now if we didn't have a great punter. I mean, you have to pair that up with our defense, and we've been able to stay. I mean, pretty solid. He's got he's got 35 punts through 6 games, and there's no one within 10 punts of that. 13 of 50 plus, 16 inside the 20, averaging 46, long of 63. I mean, those
No.
incredible stats.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
We're having the exact same conversation right now that people had about Iowa last year. Remember how everyone was talking about how incredible their punter was, and it was because their offense was awful and a
Yep,
really good defense? Oh no.
yep. That's why Auburn's punter is like right there. He's the next closest. It's crazy
Tell
though.
me.
16 inside the 20 is that's a good number.
No doubt about it. All right, let's learn a little more about the Gamecocks from Hale McGranahan. But first,
Schwab Meat loves football. They make delicious smoked meats, hot dogs, and sausages for us to enjoy before, during, and after games. You should go load up on schwabmeat.com and use promo code OKBreakdown for free shipping on orders over 75 bucks. Schwab also loves football players in Oklahoma. They partner with Danny Stutzman and Nick Martin. Those two linebackers got the dog in them. Schwab should know dogs are what they do. Schwab Meat, the official hot dog of game days.
and three things matter in banking: service, service, and service. And First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they are honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you are headed. Open an account at an award winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. And with all the garage locations being open at 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
It is our pleasure to be joined by the main man over at thebigspur.com. He also has one of the coolest names ever. Hale McGranahan is in the house to talk some Gamecocks. Hale, how we doing, man?
Doing all right. I don't know if I'll lay claim to the main man title, but I appreciate the shout out on the name. Thank you for that.
Well, JC got sick, so you're here and he's not. So you're the main man. You understand? That's just how it works, Hale.
Perfect. Let's roll with that.
Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Lenora Sellers looked like he was getting pretty close back to being 100% with the way that he looked at it against Alabama last week. Where do you think he's at health wise?
I think he's as close to 100% as any player is right now. I don't know if he's there or not, but he certainly looked good enough to play, healthy enough to play last week and the week before for that matter against Ole Miss. So from that standpoint, I think he's perfectly okay, relatively speaking.
Right. Feels like he's come a long way. I mean, he's suffered through some of the mistakes that you typically expect from a young quarterback, but I mean, it feels like the big plays are always just waiting to happen for him. I don't know what's the coaching staff. Has it been a frustration with him because of some of the mistakes? How have they handled the young quarterback?
Yeah, that I would have to think there's a degree of frustration. I mean, he's got 4 interceptions. I think he's lost 3 fumbles, but has had like a total of 9. So there's been some issues there in taking care of the football, and some of that, like you said, is like him being a redshirt freshman. He's starting games for the first time. Then some of it is like maybe he's trusting himself a little too much, or trying to fight through a sack, and like we saw against Alabama last week, trying to get rid of the football when he probably should have just tucked it and moved on to the next play, and it ends up costing them.
He
So
also fought through one, found his way outside, threw it down the field, and hit a guy right in the hands that probably would have been a touchdown.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about the one to Gage Larvadain up the Carolina sideline. That's right. Yeah, he
Like it's what you get with him, you know.
exactly. Yeah, that's kind of that living dangerously thing to where you're like, oh no 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 no. Oh yeah, good. Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think they're trying to find that happy medium for sure.
How has the offensive line performed for the Gamecocks? I know playing a true freshman at left tackle, got some experienced guys there on the interior, but overall as a group, how have they performed in your eyes?
I mean, South Carolina's given up more sacks than anyone else at the FBS level. I think it's 26. Um, so the offensive line certainly has a part in that. It's not all on them. I mean, there's been some backs who have missed blocks, some tight ends who have missed blocks, sellers holding on to the ball for too long, like we were just talking about. So there's a combination of those things, but yeah, they've had some issues. Like you said, true freshman starting at left tackle. There's going to be some kind of like with the redshirt freshman quarterback starting for the first time. There's going to be some moments where you're going to just have to live with the consequences. But I think Josiah Thompson, he's getting better. I think PFF had him as the highest graded freshman offensive lineman in the country this past week, and so that's a good sign. They've had to gel with a lot of new pieces. I mean, they got two transfers, first year transfers starting at both guard spots. Um, right tackle who started for the most part this season or started every game this season, first year starter. The only real experienced guy they've got, at least coming into the season, was at center and Rashawn Lee. So, they've had to gel and it's been a little challenging at times, especially from a pass blocking standpoint. But maybe some of the numbers, total sacks, are maybe not necessarily indicative of it all being on them. I think as most people know it's not just the offensive line who gives up sacks. It's going to be quarterbacks, backs, tight ends, whoever else. Like I said, that plays a part in it.
It feels like maybe against Alabama found something in the passing game. Not that it's been a huge struggle, but I mean it feels like maybe Sellers is starting to find something a little bit. Um, who's been his main go-to guy?
Yeah, I would say Mazio Bennett. He's a freshman receiver, number three, has come along and consistently been a guy who's made some plays. Another name that is a guy who's been hurt the last couple weeks, didn't play against Alabama, is Jared Brown, transferred in from Coastal Carolina. He was when he's been healthy, he's been a pretty consistent target for Lenore. So yeah, starts with Mazia right now. We'll see where Jared Brown's at this weekend, or I guess Wednesday night when the first SEC injury report drops. Tight end Josh Simon has caught a decent amount of passes. He's involved in the passing game as well. Um, and that's kind of it, really. I mean, they do throw the ball to some other guys, but from a volume standpoint, it's not a ton because it's obviously a pretty run heavy team with what Lenore's can do and Rocket Sanders and some other guys. So it's not a bunch of guys who are getting a ton of targets, that's for sure.
Looking at the offense as a whole, Hale, what do you think is maybe this offense's greatest strength coming into this football game this weekend?
I would say just being able to run the football. I mean, we saw it in spurts against Alabama, even though they did have some success throwing the ball downfield, really for the first time all season. But I would think running the ball again, Rocket. He's been banged up a little bit, but I think he's healthy. He had an ankle injury in the Akron game, and he's shown flashes of being that guy that we all saw in 2021 when he was still at Arkansas. Obviously, the Norse has got some running ability. Oscar Attaway, North Texas transfers, played a little bit and done some nice things as well. So I think right now, probably safe to say, running the ball. If there's some South Carolina fans listening to me right now, they're probably saying nothing is a strength. They've seen
Well,
some pretty rough offensive football over the years, and they're pretty
well,
jaded. A lot of
Wait
them are.
till they watch this game.
wait till they talk to OU fans this week.
I bet. Yeah, yeah.
We'll have something to share a beer over, I guess. Um, how about Nick Harbor? I mean, obviously, ton of fanfare coming out of high school, just an incredible athlete, first guy off the bus type of player. But I, I guess he hasn't had just a ton of touches. Has it been difficult finding ways to get him the football?
Yeah, Teddy. Yeah, I mean, I think some of that is a product of this again being like a more run oriented type of team. I probably should have mentioned him when I was talking about the receivers a minute ago, but he just hadn't gotten a lot of targets in the passing game. I mean, he'll get two or three a game, or at least he has to this point in the season, and that's kind of it. And he had the big touchdown catch last week against Alabama. He caught another slant earlier in the game. And the thing with him kind of all along coming out of high school was he wasn't a he didn't play wide receiver in high school. He was a tight end and a defensive end. And me personally, I thought and probably still kind of do honestly think that he could be a really good defensive end. So it's not very natural for him when it comes to catching passes and doing all the kind of finer things that come with playing receiver. So you'll see at times where he kind of fights it a little bit to make a catch, and that slant that I referenced a second ago, you kind of see that. But he's still 6'5" and can run really fast in a straight line. That's another thing that's been kind of a challenge for him is getting used to running routes and not just going as fast as you can. Changing speeds obviously is an important part of being able to run routes and uh, quite frankly, that's been a challenge for him because that's just not the type of athlete and the type of build that he's got um, from a speed standpoint. So just it's been a lot of little things like that people tend to overlook, especially when they're playing a video game with them and you're like, oh, this guy's got 99 speed and he's taller than everybody on the field. Like, I just throw it to him. But in real life, it's a little more challenging than that. But he has improved. To his credit, he's worked really hard. I mean, he didn't do anything with football during spring practice. It really didn't start with football here in 2024 until June. So he's been kind of playing catch up, but again, to his credit, he seems to be putting things together and interested to see how he does the second half of the season.
It's it's against the law for him to move to defensive end with the defensive ends you guys have. You can't have three mutants at defensive end. That's against the rules. Hell, in all seriousness, Kennard and Stewart are absolutely fantastic. Just how good have they been for the Gamecocks this season?
Man, well, I tell you what, guys, they probably don't beat Old Dominion without either one of those guys because I think it was Kennard forced a fumble on the first series and South Carolina recovered it, and it's eight. They're at like the 8 yard line. And they score an easy touchdown. Then I guess it was Stewart who forced one later on in the game, sometime in the second half. Again, like they're already in the red zone when they picked it up, and those were the only two touchdowns the offense scored that day. So yeah, they probably lost that game without both of them. Maybe just one of them. They might lose that game. Um, then we saw against Alabama, they probably don't get back into that game without those guys. They're awesome. I mean, Kennard coming in from Georgia Tech, I think everybody knew he was going to improve the pass rush because it was pretty bad last year, quite frankly. But I don't think anyone could have imagined that he would be doing what he's done so far. I mean, he's got 7.5 sacks. South Carolina hasn't had a guy finish a regular season with uh, more than 7.5 sacks since 2016. And Dylan Stewart, who's got 3.5 and probably could have more, but you know, quarterbacks have had a little more luck getting away from him, but he's still affected other teams' backfields and wrecked shop, and he just turned 19 years old, and sky's the limit for that guy. I mean, I was telling people on podcasts and radio interviews and on thebigspur.com a year ago that if he was on their team in 2023, he would have been a difference maker. And we've certainly seen that through 6 games here this season. He's awesome. Sky's the limit for that guy.
I did Coach Venable's coaches show last night, and obviously has a long history, been playing South Carolina a long time. Whenever he's at Clemson, he says that this is the most talented South Carolina defense that he's ever seen. Do you agree with that?
Uh, it's the most talented one in a decade, probably. It's 2024, so I think
Yes,
Clowney's
his
last
first
year.
year in Clemson was 2012. So I mean, that's
Yeah, like I think Clowney's last year was like 13, maybe, so somewhere in there. So yeah, I mean,
and Clowney counts as like 10 guys. So
right, right,
if
yeah.
he's just on that, it counts as the whole team.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, kind of the standard post like Spurrier. Um, in 2017, Muschamp's second season, they had a really good defense that year. Carolina won 9 games, beat Michigan in the Outback Bowl. Had a lot of guys who gone on to the NFL off that team, a few on the defense. It was a really good defense, and kind of my thing coming into this season was like, hey, I think this defense will be good at the very least as that 2017 team, and if Coach V's saying this group is better than any he's seen at South Carolina, I'll I'll go with his judgment. I covered Clemson for a little bit before I started covering Carolina, and so I've been around Coach a little bit, and even if I hadn't, I'll just say that I certainly take his word over mine when it comes to anything football related, especially defense.
Looking at what the defense has struggled with, what do you think is what do you think maybe has been the biggest weakness of South Carolina's defense this season?
Um, they've given up some big plays through the air, and some of that is guys trying to make a play on the ball, which you're going to get if you're playing aggressively. Like sometimes you're going to get burnt. Um, I don't know. They've been really good, so it's hard to say. Um, LSU was able to put some things together in the second half, and they've got a pretty good group of receivers and tight end as well, obviously. So when you got to account for that many guys in the passing game, that's going to be challenging for anybody. So it's hard for me to be real critical of what we saw from South Carolina in that game. But I mean they're good, man. I mean that I don't want to sit here and say they're like some flawless group and like they don't have weaknesses. I mean that they could be better. And again, on some of those deep balls that they've gotten burnt at times this year, and certainly going back to last year. And a lot of the guys who were in that secondary last year, they gave up some really big plays, some backbreaking plays a year ago, but they also didn't have the guys up front in the pass rush to help make things a little easier. So I don't know. I mean they've probably benefited from playing against some offenses that like Kentucky wasn't going that great. Akron's obviously Akron. Old Dominion wasn't anything electric. Ole Miss. I'm not sitting here trying to say they're not good on offense, but they hadn't been clicking much lately, and didn't look all that spectacular against South Carolina. So maybe that was more of a product of Carolina having a good defense. So I don't know. I mean, I'm giving you a big word salad here, but I don't know. Maybe I'm having trouble coming up with something because they're just that good.
Well, I mean, I know there's got to be a lot of frustration. Had LSU, it looked like beat at home, probably should have won that game. Some bad officiating in that one. And then it's the same thing at Alabama, have them on the ropes, really good chance to win that one. So I know there's a lot of frustration there, but there also has to be quite a bit of confidence that comes with that. Coming on the road to play Oklahoma, who's coming off of a big loss to Texas. How do you think the game needs to go for South Carolina to still win?
That's a good question. They can't turn the ball over. Um, they can't give Oklahoma short fields. I don't have to tell you guys that Oklahoma offense has struggled, so you don't want to give them opportunities to you can't make it easier for them than it needs to be. And as we know, turnovers have been an issue for South Carolina this year, so that's going to be something they're going to have to overcome in order to win this game, I think. So if they take care of the ball and are able to piece some drives together and uh, be able to play some complementary football, if it doesn't, if a drive doesn't end up with them, you know, scoring a touchdown, at least punt it back to the other team and punt it back to Oklahoma and make them drive the length of the field to get points, as opposed to a first down or two when they're knocking on the door. So to me, that's the thing is as simple as South Carolina needs to just be better with the football, take care of that thing.
Hale, I'm sure that you and the rest of the guys over at thebigspur.com are going to have your predictions on this game. So I'm going to ask you here. Do you think this is a game that South Carolina is going to win?
I do. I really do. I know Oklahoma's had a ton of injuries at receiver, and receiver's been an issue for South Carolina throughout the year. Even coming into the year, we knew it was going to be kind of a weakness. I think Carolina's probably got a little bit of an advantage there, just from comparing one position to the other. Quarterback, I'm not real sure what y'all have up your sleeve with what's happening there. I don't. Are there going to be two guys on the field throughout the course of the game? I'm interested to see that, but I kind of like where South Carolina's at quarterback. Is again, as long as Lenore's is taking care of the ball, I think that's a matchup that they've got the edge in. And defensively, if Brent Venables is saying this is the best South Carolina's defense he's seen, um, does that mean they're a little bit better than Oklahoma's? I don't know. I mean, I think South Carolina's really salty on that side of the ball. So I don't know that just I'm maybe I'm being a little bit of a homer here, but I think they win for whatever it's worth, guys. And I know y'all know Shane pretty well. He was pretty laid back today. Didn't seem like a guy who's trying to win a game so his team isn't below 500. He seemed pretty comfortable in his skin this afternoon. So maybe there's something to read into there, maybe not. Maybe that's just him, but I'm going to pick Carolina to win. I'm not quite sure what the score is going to be. It'll probably be low, but
9-6.
9-6. Is somebody? Are there going to be two touchdowns? Is there going to be a touchdown in
All
there?
field goals. All field
I
goals.
don't know. I think it's going to be a low score game. I think you got two really good defenses, and I mean, I South Carolina definitely has more big play capability than Oklahoma does right now. So that does scare me. But I guess I'm saying if Oklahoma wins, it's going to be a really, really low scoring football game.
Yeah, I think
Seems
that's probably safe assessment.
seems fair. Hale, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Are you making the trip to Norman?
I will. It'll be my first time in the state, so I'm looking forward to
Nice.
experiencing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, don't be a stranger. Come find us.
All right, boys. Well, I appreciate y'all having me on, and looking forward to seeing what y'all got going on out there.
Appreciate you, Hale. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Insurica's launched a new digital agency introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered. From small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. Let's preview some of the best games of week 8 in college football, Ted. All SEC previews this week.
Great week.
Let's start in Austin, Texas. Number 5, Georgia, traveling to take on the number 1 Texas Longhorns. This game will be 6:30 on ABC. Texas is currently a 3.5 point favorite. And my God, this weekend in Austin is going to be insane. This game on Saturday and then that Formula One race on Sunday,
And I think
chaos.
isn't Eminem performing?
Yes, I remember hearing that.
Yeah,
Chaos.
chaos for sure. Yeah, that's gonna be wild. And a great football game.
Looking at these two teams, I think Texas is the more complete football team.
I agree.
Texas has not played a team as talented as Georgia. But the differentiator for me, man, is Steve Sarkisian. I trust him to scheme some things up against that Georgia defense. And it's a Georgia defense that is not a dominant group like we are used to seeing under Kirby Smart. And I think there's a debate to be had about who has the better defense in this game.
Yeah,
But I don't think there's much of a debate to be had about who has the better offense. I think that answer is Texas.
right. Well, and for me, Georgia just has not looked right yet. I mean, there's been some flashes, but Texas. I mean, we had them not looking great in the first quarter of that football game, but they improved and got right back to what we've seen from them. And I think the confidence level of Texas right now has to be incredibly high. You're saying, well, they're just coming out of the OU Texas game. Surely there's going to be a little bit of a letdown. No, because it was one of those games where they were in total control. It wasn't like a super emotional finish to that football game where you felt like the high coming out of there was going to carry over and be something that you have to talk about to move past. Didn't really feel like that. Feel like a taking care of business kind of weekend for Texas, unfortunately for us. So, I mean, I guess I don't see anywhere where there's going to be a mismatch in Georgia's favor. Feel like a lot of places it's going to be pretty even. You would typically say, well, Texas isn't going to be able to hold up on the line of scrimmage, but I think on both sides of the ball, they're going to hold up on the line of scrimmage just fine.
I'm with you. I do think clearly quarterback play in this game is going to be huge. I'm expecting Quinn Ewers to look better than he did in Dallas, especially the way that he looked early. I don't think he's going to look that shaky or that rusty again like he did against OU. Carson Beck, it's kind of hard to predict what to expect with him. I mean, we saw him wilt before our eyes in the first 3 quarters of the Bama game, only to find it and look fantastic in the fourth quarter. Georgia has to have the best version of Carson Beck in this game. He can't throw a bad red zone pick like he just did against Mississippi State. That can't happen.
Right.
He has to take care of the ball and he's gonna have to make some throws. And,
And
and we'll see.
it's going to be, I don't know. I've never even been to the stadium, but I have to imagine, considering where they're sitting right now, number one in the country, I have to imagine it's going to be perhaps the best environment they've had there in a really long time,
Maybe ever.
maybe ever.
It'll be interesting to see what Isaiah Bond looks like. Sark said he's day to day. He never came back in after hurting that ankle, but I'm under the assumption he's going to look just fine. And I think that when you look at the groups of pass catchers, like you look at Georgia with Arian Smith and Dylan Bell and Lovett, and then you look at Texas's guys with Bond and Wingo, and I would throw Gunnar Helm in there, the tight end. He's been
Yeah,
fantastic for them.
really
I
good.
I think Texas has the advantage there, especially if Bond looks close to 100%. The only other question I have about this game is if Texas wins, what random Georgia quarterback's jersey will they destroy after the game?
I, it's got to the only one worth destroying. Well, Stafford. Who else? I mean,
Who is the Georgia equivalent of Baker Mayfield? Did you see Anthony Hill talk about that?
yeah.
That was pretty funny. It's like a fan gave it to me. I'm actually a Baker Mayfield fan. That was weird, though. That was very strange. He tweeted that picture out. We all were like, wait, what? But hey,
It's funny
when
because
you
I
win the
watched
game, you
it
get,
happen, and it was like it was a really weird deal. I didn't know what I was watching at the time. It was just like a couple of guys over there with the flag. There wasn't really anyone else around. It was interesting.
it was strange. It was strange. But hey, when you win that game, you
Do
get to
weird
do
stuff.
you get to do all the weird stuff you want.
Right.
Them's the rules. But I do think is Aaron Murray. I feel like Aaron Murray's really loved there.
Oh, well, yeah, he is. But does anyone in Texas even know who he is?
He's got a great YouTube channel now. So yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
I guess I'm saying player wise, because he was what?
He's my age. He's old.
Is he? Well, I thought he was older than you.
No, same age.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah. Uh,
Stetson Bennett, a Stetson Bennett jersey is
that's a bit it.
gonna get attacked after the game.
They may be those jerseys may be hard to come by, but yeah, I don't know. That was a pretty funny situation. Thought
It
Baker
was.
handled it perfectly.
Yeah. Rent free, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that guy. I don't think Georgia doesn't have a quarterback as beloved as Baker.
No.
Maybe no one does. Tebow? I don't know.
Tebow, yeah, maybe,
This is a
probably.
June conversation.
Yeah, it is.
Let's move on. Who do you like in that game? I'm taking Texas to win the football game.
I am too. I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, I'm taking Texas to win the football game.
Another big SEC matchup. Number 7 Alabama going to number 11 Tennessee. A 2:30 kickoff on ABC. Alabama currently a 2.5 point road favorite. Not exactly great vibes around either of these football teams right now, Ted. This game has such a weird feel to it, man.
I know it does. Boy, I, I'm kind of. I mean, it's reputation with Alabama being the favorite, but
They're now a 3 point favorite, by the way. It's
um,
up to three.
I think Tennessee's going to win the football game.
Ooh, okay. I'm listening.
I just Alabama does not have the edge. Like they're not the physically dominant team. They're getting punched in the mouth. Every time I watch them on film, I'm seeing guys getting caught all over the field. And I'm so used to seeing them just absolutely dominate people physically. It just doesn't have the same vibe to me. I think the invincibility isn't there anymore for opponents that are looking at them. It's just a little bit different. And I think there's probably a little bit of doubt in the locker room about who they are and who they've become. Like I think there's probably some questions there. Oh, is Coach DeBoer doing it right? Was Saban's method better? I mean, everyone in their fan base is talking about it. Whether it holds any weight or not, it's being talked about so much that it has to creep into the locker room to some degree, I would imagine. I don't know. I don't have good vibes with Bama right now. Now, talent wise, clearly capable of going in there and winning that football game and doing it by a couple scores. But it just seems sketchy right now with Bama.
Both teams coming off games where they escaped with the win.
Okay. Yep.
All kinds of questions about Bama's defense and a lot of questions about Tennessee's offense.
Yep.
Why isn't it clicking? And when I look at both of these teams, sometimes when I feel like the talent is relatively even, I go, okay, what do I trust? And I trust Jalen Milroe to go make plays. He may make some mistakes, but that guy is an absolute freak show with his legs.
Mhm.
And I trust Ryan Williams to make a couple plays that make me go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I can trust for Tennessee offensively right now. I think Dylan Sampson's fantastic, but that offensive line is struggling to block people. I mean, that is the root problem for them offensively. I know that Nico's taking a lot of heat. Yeah, he's missing some throws. He is. But their main problem is that offensive line is not playing at a high level. And
Yeah.
do I all of a sudden think that they're going to rise to the occasion against Alabama's defensive line? I don't know. When you look at Bama's defense, the big weakness is the secondary. They're inexperienced, they're young, they're making mistakes.
I don't think they know what they're doing at backer either. They misfit a lot of stuff, and they get caught like looking, and guys climb up to the next level on them, and they're captured quite a bit.
Tennessee's offense, it has not moved the football and scored points against any defense they've played with a pulse. So it feels like, hey, something's got to give in this game.
I like that it's at home for Tennessee's offense. Um, maybe that helps them out a little bit with some of their functionality, but I don't know. After watching the way South Carolina was able to run the ball on Tennessee, you would think that, or on South Carolina run the ball on Alabama, you would think Tennessee would be able to find some areas where they could really get the run game going. But I don't know.
We'll see. It's either way.
It's
Nico's
more of
got
a
to,
mentality thing for me.
yeah, Nico's got to have a big day. There's a lot of people doubting that guy right now, and he needs to go out and play well. And they've got to produce some explosive plays against this Bama secondary that's struggling. But you've got Tennessee. I'll take Alabama for
Okay.
one reason and one reason only. Jalen Milroe can make something out of nothing, and it's
True.
spectacular to watch.
It's true. Dude is a freak.
More intrigued by Texas A&M at Mississippi State or by LSU at Arkansas?
I think LSU at Arkansas, but Mississippi State feels like they're starting to come together a little bit and playing people tough, playing some better football. Um, but I think the LSU at Arkansas is toss up. What are you going to get out of LSU? What are you going to get out of Arkansas?
Arkansas coming off a bye too.
Yeah,
After that huge win over Tennessee, LSU coming off the overtime game against Ole Miss. So can LSU recharge the batteries and be ready to go in what I am told is a very hostile environment when Arkansas is good?
yeah,
And they're good. And it feels like that fan base is fired up. I think it's going to be rocking in Fayetteville, but it feels like a very tough spot for LSU. But Ted, the big question is how healthy is Taylor Green?
that's it. Yeah,
He, I mean, he's had some time to get healthy, but Sam Pittman today said they're hopeful he'll be ready to go. And if he doesn't have his mobility, and remember it was a leg injury, if he doesn't have his mobility, then that's tough right? Because
Yep.
that's the thing that makes that guy who he is. Now maybe he just drops back and becomes an awesome pocket passer all of a sudden. That'd be fun to watch, but his mobility and what it brings not only to their run game, but the threat of him taking off and scrambling, it's a massive part of their offense. And if he can't move around, then I really like LSU if he's not close to 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm kind of leaning LSU just because I feel like they are one of the teams that I've seen improve. Maybe not week by week, but I feel like they're getting better and better. Nussmeier's getting better and better. Offensive line, big for them. They got pass catchers all over the place. And, even though their defense has taken their lumps, they made some really nice plays whenever they had to in that win over Ole Miss. So I don't know, I'm going LSU
I I have to pick LSU, not
because the
knowing,
uncertainty at quarterback. Yeah.
yeah, with the uncertainty of Taylor Green at quarterback for Arkansas. I won't be surprised at all if Arkansas wins the football game because the SEC looks like it's just going to be a bloodbath this season.
Well, every game we just talked about, I mean, you don't have to try very hard to envision Georgia beating Texas. You don't have to try very hard on either side of the Tennessee Bama. And I mean, I think this game's kind of the same. South Carolina, Oklahoma, kind of the same. Mississippi State's been playing everyone close, and while I like Texas A&M, in no way has Texas A&M played themselves into a position where you absolutely trust how they're going to show up week in, week out.
They're A&M's coming off a bye after murdering Missouri a couple weeks ago. I'm sure they have a ton of confidence. Mississippi State is 1-5, but that team's showing some life. Remember, it was a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter against Georgia.
Yep,
And it
played
was
Texas
14 to
nice.
6. It was 14 to 6 at halftime for Mississippi State against Texas.
Mhm.
Like they've showed some life. They're improving. Michael Van Buren is showing some improvement and also a lot of restraint from that young man. Coach is just pushing him, not even reacting. But I think A&M is going to win that football game. But I honestly will be surprised if it's not closer than people think it's going to be. I think the spread's like 15.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it feels like Mississippi State, even though the record isn't great, it feels like they found something. It feels like maybe they found their formula on how to keep it close late into the game, and then hopefully try and have a shot.
Let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Well, I had to go with Baker Mayfield. I mean, the dude absolutely has it rolling right now. Got another big win, another big day um, through the air, another putting big numbers. I think he leads the NFL in touchdowns responsible for. The guy's got it, and like we mentioned, he's absolutely killing it at the podium. Handled the Texas situation really well. 325, four touchdowns. Did have the three interceptions, but um, you look at where he stacks up right now. He's one of the names that you're seeing thrown out there for MVP.
Having a heck of a season, and his football team's winning games. 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for Baker Mayfield. The 15 passing touchdowns is three more than any other quarterback in the National Football League this season.
Ooh, pretty good. What'd you think? I thought Radler did some nice things.
I was just happy to see him out there, man.
Yeah.
And I root for the Saints. I played for them. I typically root for the teams that I played for. So I've got six options. But with what he dealt with here at Oklahoma and then going to South Carolina and kind of working through that entire process and just kept pushing and pushing. I was really, really happy to see him out there on an NFL field. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
made me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
He's got a good arm. He's accurate. Um, like I said, I thought he did some nice things considering the moment up against a good team. First time getting some real action out there. Not a bad first game for the young man.
Shout out to Baker Mayfield. OU fans needed the Bucks to put up a big number on Sunday
I
after
know.
what happened in Dallas.
I know it. I know it. Yeah. And they're starting to get Shep the ball a bunch of different ways, handing it to him on a couple of end arounds. He got blown up on one of them, but had a really nice first down run on the other. Good stuff.
Get
And
that old man
the
get that old man the
penalty.
football.
Did you see the offensive pass interference call they made on him?
What'd you
He
think of
was,
that one?
it's the first time I've ever seen a guy, it's on the goal line. He's trying to go pick this guy for the under route, but he never even made it there. It's like he got flagged because he was intending to go pick that guy, but his guy jammed him so much that he didn't really get a chance to do it, and they still threw the flag on him. It's pretty funny.
It's like the official could read his mind.
Yes.
He was
Pretty good.
flagged for intent.
Yeah, it's
He was intending to pick the defender.
well, you got to at least act like you're running a route, but he was getting jammed so bad. It was pretty funny. Baker was pointing out, it's like, what he's doing? He didn't even go anywhere. Got jammed at the line.
Who do you have as your loser of the week?
I had to go with Jerry Jones. Did you hear the call in to the Dallas radio station?
Jerry's not happy, Ted.
Well, he's not happy, but why does he care? Don't you think that if there's anyone who is past like what the public thinks, it's a guy that's been the owner of that football team for, I don't know, 45, 50 years. I don't know how long it's been. But so what? He's getting criticized. Like, is he going to get fired from owning the Dallas Cowboys? Like, what's his problem? Why is he so upset? I don't get it. Like, so what? The radio guys are firing some rough questions your way. Okay, answer them. What's the worst that can happen? Say, yeah, we made a couple of mistakes. Say, purposely trying to run the team into the ground. It doesn't even matter what he says. It's like it's the greatest position to be in the world. You can't do anything wrong. It's your team. I don't understand what the big deal was.
He doesn't like when people are mean to him.
Yeah.
I think, and he remember he does a lot of those radio interviews. He holds press conferences. It's just what he does, man.
Yeah. It was just weird to hear him like say, I'll find someone else to ask the questions, basically saying, get you guys fired. And they all start laughing. He's like, I'm serious.
Do you think those guys looked at each other like, oh my gosh, I think he's serious?
uh, Maybe, but I mean, come on. I think Jerry probably calmed down a little bit after the radio interview. You know, I don't know. Have they done any? I know everyone like the reason people are so uh, he's the
Dude, they
only
did
owner
get
that
beat 47-9.
that's true. But what are you going to do? You're not going to pay Dak Prescott? You don't have a choice. I mean, I understand it puts you in purgatory, but what are you going to do? Are you just going to go risk it in the draft? Nah, Dak, go ahead, go on, go be a free agent. He'll last about 7 seconds on the free agent market. Someone will pick him up, and then you'll be like getting leftovers from somewhere or chancing it in the draft. I mean, some teams haven't had a good quarterback for 30 years. How long did the Bears wait for Caleb Williams?
A very long time.
You don't have a choice in the NFL. There's like 10 guys in the world that can play quarterback at the level you need to go win a championship. And like if you don't have one of those guys, if you got someone that's close, you just have to pay him. That's all you could do.
I want Jerry Jones to go back on that radio show Monday morning after they get whooped on Sunday Night Football by the 49ers. That's what I want.
And that is going to happen.
That's what I think is going to happen. And I hope he goes back on there because I want to hear it.
Which I will say, oh my gosh, Detroit was dialing it up. Some of the stuff that they were doing offensively was so cool.
That guy, I don't know how they still have him. How has no one paid Ben Johnson to be their head coach?
Did he? I feel like did he interview last year after the season was over?
I'm starting to think that
He's got some
Dan
skeletons
Campbell
in his
is like
closet.
holding him hostage, or that he's so scared to leave Dan Campbell that he just won't do it.
Yeah. Maybe he likes it and is having fun. I mean,
No, come on.
I
You
don't
sound ridiculous.
I guess, does every coach that coaches football have to want to be a head coach?
Yes,
Yes.
I think. Have you ever met a coach that's just no, I guess I've met several coaches that weren't interested in being a head coach. Yeah, maybe he just
Now,
wants to be a coordinator. He's really damn good at it.
now the NFL is way different. Like I can understand if you got with a bunch of college coaches and like truth serum, they'd be like, hell no, I don't want to be a head coach. Are you kidding me? Who would ever want what psychopath would ever want to be a college football head coach? But in the NFL, it's a much better gig.
No doubt. I was really sad when Hutchinson broke his leg like that. Ugh.
Yeah. All things considered though, I it was better than if it would have like his if it would have tore his knee up, you know? Like the break is probably better.
I will not be surprised if that guy is back this season. He seems
No.
like a psycho.
Yeah, you think
Seems like you get Detroit in the playoffs and here comes 97.
it's like screw it together. I'm playing.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser first. We are brought to you by Mando. Mando is American made and is our new go-to for hygiene products. I'm all about efficiency. I'm all about traveling light, which is why I love Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar. It's a 5-ounce bar that does the work of a shampoo, face wash, body wash, and deodorant. It's like if a guy played offense, defense, special teams, and mowed the football field. Versatility, baby, but also simple because it's simple, simplifies my hygiene routine and comes in 3 quality scents: Mount Fuji bourbon leather and Pro Sport. Mando also makes a whole body deodorant. It's safe to use anywhere on your body and is aluminum free and dye free. I've been using the Mount Fuji scent. Big fan of it. And so is my wife. She walked by me the other day, said, "Hey, you smell manly." And I said, "It's Mando." And luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on the best smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code OKBreakdown at shopmando.com. SHOPMANDO.com. Code OKBreakdown.
What if for the rest of 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. 1 in 5 Americans have learned a new language on their bucket list. If that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. Here's a special offer for our listeners that it's only for our listeners. Right now, Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Oklahoma. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Just use Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. And if you want a live classroom experience from the comfort of your own home, Babbel Live is for you. Babbel Live classes are available 7 days a week at any time of the day and taught by over 450 certified teachers so you can learn on your schedule. Challenge yourself to learn something new is always a good thing. And if your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel is the best way to go. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/Oklahoma. That's BABBEL.com/Oklahoma. Rules and restrictions may apply.
For my winner of the week, thought about going with Amari Cooper. Can only imagine how good it feels to go from Deshaun Watson to Josh Allen.
Get out of jail free card.
Oh,
I
the
mean,
change
it's
in vibes around the teams alone. Uh, I can only imagine. I mean, the Bills are 4-2. They're at the top of the AFC East. Cleveland is 1-5 and at the bottom of the AFC North. And it seems like everyone there is miserable. Congrats, Amari Cooper.
and it's not like it's not like you're going from Southern California to Buffalo. It's just a little jaunt across the lake. The weather sucks in Cleveland just as much as it does in Buffalo.
I've made that trip. Played in
Little
both
puddle jumper.
places, two different times. How about that? Congrats, Amari Cooper. I We'll see how he produces for the Bills, but yeah, it's got to feel a lot better
Oh yeah.
than being in Cleveland right now. But my winner of the week, Travis Hunter. Maybe it should be college football fans. You see what Deion Sanders said, Ted?
Yeah.
Travis Hunter, quote, should play for certain on Saturday. Remember, left the game against Kansas State last week with the shoulder injury in the second quarter, never came back. So it's just good to hear that arguably the best player in college football is going to play football this weekend. I'm a big fan of that. And then, Ted, do you know who Colorado plays on Saturday?
I do know who they play.
They play the Arizona Wildcats.
Yes.
And do you know what that means, Ted?
We get to see T Mac and Travis Hunter going at it.
Yes, that's exactly what it means. Tedero McMillan, one of the best wide receivers in all of college football, guy that's going to be an early round pick, and Travis Hunter are going to go at it. And my hope is that Travis Hunter travels with McMillan the entire game. And maybe my hope is that they just put a camera on those two guys. I
Yeah.
would watch it. But this is what you want. You want these elite on elite matchups, and I think that's what we're getting. I did not expect to be so excited about a 3-3 Arizona team playing a 4-2 Colorado team, but here I am. And it has everything to do with these two guys being really, really good, and they're going to be going up against each other. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about college football is when you get these big time individual matchups like this.
Do you think the networks called and said, listen, you guys are going to have to come to an agreement. We need Travis Hunter to play so we can have this elite on elite matchup. But Arizona, you have to agree, like, not to run the football at him all game long. Like, we need this matchup for ratings, so please
You,
let's play nice.
you got to air it out, guys.
Got
Them's
to
the
air it
rules.
out.
McMillan, he's on his way to a 1,500-yard season,
Yeah, he's good.
averaging 17.7 yards per catch. I know this. A lot of NFL decision makers, going to have their eyes on these two guys in this football game.
Who's the best wideout that Travis Hunter's played against? Can you think off the top of your head?
Ooh, this season?
Yeah. Nebraska, Baylor, UCF, Kansas State,
No,
Colorado State, North Dakota State.
Colorado State's got one really good wide receiver.
We do. Well, this is like a totally different. I mean, McMillan's 6'5", elite. Like this will be a big time uh, test or matchup, whatever. It's got to be by far the best matchup he's had this year.
Yeah, Torrey Horton for Colorado State. And by the way, I think it got announced he's out for the rest of the year, but he's really good. But other than that, yeah, this I think it's fair to say that this is going to be Travis Hunter's biggest test at corner,
Yeah.
which should be awesome. Can't wait. My loser of the week, Cam Rising.
Oh man.
We love this guy. Broke my heart to see Kyle Whittingham announce that he's going to miss the rest of the season with that lower leg injury that he suffered early in that Arizona State
I saw
game.
it's like the third play of the game,
Yeah, I was watching it.
and it was ugly, and I could tell that he was hurting really bad and trying like he kept playing though. You know, he was because he was. It's one of those things like this can't be real. I'm gonna keep fighting through it and see what happens. Hate
Respect to him for playing the rest of that game, but he shouldn't have been playing in that game.
no.
But this is such a bummer. I don't think anyone can debate this. Like, college football is more fun when Cam Rising is healthy.
If you can remember back that far,
He's had some bad luck.
I
Missed
know
all last season with the knee, had the weird hand thing this year, and now this. I just I don't know if we're gonna see him play college football again. I guess he has the option to come back for next year for an eighth season. We'll see what he ends up doing, but it makes me very sad that we have probably watched Cam Rising's last game at Utah
yeah, yeah.
because I we were big fans of his. Just he
Yeah,
was just fun to watch, man. And played that position with just a level of physicality that was honestly refreshing.
it was. Yeah, I got him hurt, but
Correct.
it was
Yes.
still
I didn't say it was intelligent. I said it was refreshing.
still fun to watch. I mean, 8 seasons. Like at some point, you gotta say like it's like the old guy at the bar. It's like, what am I doing here? Right? And there's some point
Still
where,
still hanging out at the college bar like
yeah,
4 or 5 years after you graduate. Like, hey man, it's starting to get weird.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, and at some point, like, if you're Utah, you kind of have to move on, don't you? Like, you don't
I
want to keep like kill the development of other players. Keep
Yeah, I
waiting.
think Isaac Wilson's going to be the starter moving forward, and I think he's going to be their guy
Mhm.
moving forward. I don't think they would say anything publicly. I think that's going to be a conversation behind closed doors like, hey, Cam, we have to move on. Not the season a lot of people expected for Utah. I thought that they would come in and not just run through the Big 12 like a lot of people thought they would, but the Cam Rising injury clearly has a lot to do with it. But they're 1-2 in Big 12 play.
Yeah, I
You know,
I predicted BYU was going to run through the Big 12.
well, great prediction, man. Look at you.
No, I did not predict that.
I was about to say you're a genius. Hope you bet
BYU
money
and
on it.
Iowa State. Iowa State looks good, man. Fun
Yeah, I do.
conference.
Utah still has BYU and Iowa State left on the schedule. So come on, Isaac Wilson.
See what you got.
Don't call it a comeback. Birthday shout outs. Happy first birthday to Baker Wayne.
Happy fifth birthday to Vincent Minto.
Happy 11th birthday to Arlo Wilkinson.
And happy 52nd birthday to Shane Hufford.
And we also have a late edition. Happy 38th birthday to Ryan Lamley. And on that note, episode 466 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget, it's a whiteout, people. Wear your white. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.